Good morning, Mo'av Abotai. Bezat Hashem. Mincha is going to be 4:50 for the whole week. Bezat Hashem. Please be on time. We were discussing on Friday if a person has diabetes and the doctor says that he needs to take a shot before every meal, an insulin shot. So he's permitted to do this on Shabbat. We said one of the reasons is because it's not 100% that he's going to bleed. It's maybe he's going to bleed, maybe he's not. He's certainly not intending to bleed. And therefore it's not a psik resha, so you're not concerned about that. He's not intending for that. And in terms of the fact that he's taking medicine, so we said for a person who's choleh, a sick person, legitimately he has diabetes, he's permitted to take medicine on Shabbat. But there's two other factors that we didn't really directly address. Factor number one is that he has to measure the amount. And measuring on Shabbat is a different prohibition. It has nothing to do with medicine. It's a separate prohibition that you're not allowed to measure on Shabbat. So is he allowed to measure the specific amount? He needs 5 cc's, he needs 10 cc's. Is he allowed to measure how much he's allowed to take? So the halacha is when you're measuring for mitzvah or for refu'ah, both. Because refu'ah is like a mitzvah. For healing or for the purposes of mitzvah, it is permitted to measure on Shabbat for those sakes. You're not allowed to use electronics and things like that to measure, but the mere measuring itself, like in a graduated cylinder, for example, or in an amount, you're allowed to do that on Shabbat when it's for mitzvah or it's for refu'ah. And there are different cases of this, measuring matzah on a mechanical scale, or measuring the amount for a mikveh on Shabbat. These are types of examples that are measurements of mitzvah and measurement of refuah. This would be a perfect example of that. So that would be permitted. That's not considered an issue in this particular case. And the final issue that's to be discussed is when you put the shot, you have to kind of build it. So there's a question of, is this called making an instrument? Because you have to take two parts and you have to combine them together in order to make the shot. So is that a problem mitaken maneh on Shabbat? So Avadia addresses that, and he says that the creation of the instrument is a temporary instrument. It's not considered a binyan that's like a construction of a house or a construction of an instrument that's permanent. It's temporary in nature by its definition. Plus, it's similar to a person taking a cap of a bottle and turning it and putting it on the container of the bottle. We don't say that's called making an instrument on Shabbat. That's called the typical usage of an instrument on Shabbat. And therefore, Avadia says, as well as Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, that there's no problem of mitaken maneh, the creation of an instrument, by putting the shot, so to speak, together in order to make it usable. That's not called the creation. That's how it's typically done. It doesn't need a professional to do, and therefore it is not called mitaken maneh either. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen. Amen.